Today we're going to talk about how to make yeast bread rolls. We're going to start with a half a cup of milk and a half a cup of water. And I've placed those in my measuring cup, and I'm now adding 1/2 of a stick of butter or margarine, and I'm going to place that in the microwave for 1 minute. One of the things that you will learn today about yeast is that it is alive. Once we rehydrate it with moisture, and today we're using milk and water, and that's going to cause the yeast to come alive, we have to protect it. It's a living organism, and we can kill it by placing too hot of a liquid on it, or we could cause it to not want to reproduce by making it too cold or by chilling it. We could actually even freeze it and shut down the reproduction almost to zero in the yeast. And then as we defrost it, it would become active again and start reproducing. So today I'm going to ask that you microwave your milk and water for 1 minute with your butter or your margarine in it. When it comes out of the microwave, we're going to stir it. We're going to allow it to cool just a little bit. The ideal temperature for yeast is going to be somewhere around 105 degrees to about 120 degrees. We could get out thermometers and spend a lot of time making sure we get to that perfect number for temperature. But really what I've found over the years that works best is to use your own senses. If it feels hot to you, it's probably too hot for the yeast. So you want to make sure that after this comes out of the microwave, you stir it until your butter melts, which will just take a minute or so. And then you want to make sure that the temperature does not feel hot. It should feel warm, shouldn't be cold. It should feel warm, but it should not feel hot. The most sensitive place on your body that's really easy to check temperature is the inside of your wrist. So you can place that on the liquid. Now on the glass, you know how in some microwaves the glass or the container gets very warm? You want to consider that as you're checking for temperature. This is just about perfect with 1 minute. Got my butter almost completely melted, so I'm going to set that aside. In a large bowl, and you're going to find a large bowl on top of your stove top, and you're going to put those back when you're done mixing today. We are not going to measure this super accurately when we're talking about the flour. What I want you to remember is this. You're going to get 4 cups of flour using the scooping method. Just scoop it and put it in a big bowl. You are not going to use all of this flour. You're going to use enough to make a soft dough that's easy for you to shape. If you dump all the flour in, you're going to have dough that is very difficult for you to make into shapes. So I'm going to use about, notice it's not level, I'm going to use about 1.5 cups of flour. I'm going to add to that my sugar, my yeast, and my salt. Let me just give that a quick stir. Then I'm going to add my melted butter, my milk, my water, and it's warm, not too hot. Again, I'm going to give this a stir. The directions then call for us to add 2 eggs and 1/2 cup of additional flour. As you are beginning to stir, you'll recall when we did quick breads that we wanted to limit the amount of stirring that we did. Remember, we mixed them very quickly because we did not want to develop the gluten. The dough right now has a little bit of a string to it, a little bit of elasticity, but not a lot. It's thoroughly mixed. I'm going to add my 2 eggs, and I'm going to add about 1/2 cup of flour. And again, I'm just stirring. I want to develop the gluten today. I want those proteins in my flour to begin to string together and to become very attached to one another. They become like rubber bands. Those rubber bands are what will cause your dough to trap the gases and to rise. Once I've completely incorporated my eggs, I'm then going to continue gradually adding my flour, about 1/2 cup at a time. Remember, we're learning to mix the dough by hand so that if you don't have a KitchenAid mixer at home or a stand mixer that has a dough hook, you are still going to be able to make delicious yeast bread products. Again, add a little more flour. Once the dough becomes stiff enough that you can knead it without it globbing to your hands, you're going to lightly flour a surface. In our lab, we have the tables set up so that you can wipe them down and then place your dough on the table, and you're going to need to knead this dough 5 to 6 minutes to develop the gluten and to cause the dough to become very smooth and elastic. If you'll notice now when I scoop the dough up, much thicker. I'm going to place some of the flour on my countertop. I'm also going to flour my hands. It's pretty soft yet, so I'm going to have to be careful. I don't want to waste this dough with it sticking to my fingers. Remember when we did our biscuits, you want to fold and press, turn it, fold and press. Fold and press. You're primarily using the ball of your hand. And you want to do this until the dough is no longer sticky, but yet it's a soft dough so that you will be able to shape it tomorrow when we come in. If I had unlimited time, I would knead my dough, I would place it in a greased bowl, and I would let it sit on my countertop or someplace warm in my kitchen. Remember that yeast like to multiply and divide in a warm environment. I need for them to multiply and divide for them to produce the carbon dioxide that's going to cause it to rise. So if I had unlimited time, I would knead my dough and then I would place it on my countertop and allow it to rise for about an hour. Once it's double in size, I would punch it down. I would shape it into my roll shapes and let it rise on the stovetop a second time, and then I would bake my rolls. Because we have limited time here at WCHS, I'm going to need to do something to allow me to do part of this today and part of it tomorrow. So after kneading this about 6 minutes, my dough is going to be very smooth, and I'm going to be able to press on it and see that it very quickly springs back. It's almost like it's just taken on this rubber band or this elastic consistency. I'm going to spray a bowl. I'm going to spray the inside lid of the bowl. I'm going to place my dough with this nice smooth top upside down. I'm going to give it a quick turn. Then I'm going to turn it over. That has greased the top of my dough. I'm going to place a lid on it. The tape is up on my computer screen. I'm going to label it. Each team in your kitchen is going to make a batch of dough. Once it's labeled, you're going to put it in kitchen 3's refrigerator. And that's how we're going to make this work in 2 labs. Instead of allowing the yeast to rise quickly in 1 hour, we're going to slow the yeast down, put it in the refrigerator. The lower temperature, the 40-degree temperature, is going to allow the yeast to reproduce, but very slowly. So that when you come in tomorrow, it will have risen, and you're ready to shape it, let it rise, and bake tomorrow during lab. Thanks.
That's Miss Spot's production.